Hey everyone, finished watching the next Dino Thunder episode, White Thunder Part 3. Oh, and it's cold in here, so I have a blanket on. After last episode, I was really hoping this one would be better, and holy crap, it is so much better. Wow. It's really weird how roller coastery Dino Thunder can be. Like, we have a really good episode, then whatever the heck last episode was. Then we have this one, which actually improves and, like, makes some of the crappy stuff in the last episode worth it. So this one starts off, the Drago Zord is flapping its wings, causing powerful winds that blow everything over. Tommy calls the Stegozord, but the White Ranger steals it and uses it to form his own Megazord. And I love the Dino Stegozord Megazord. The Ranger Zords are hurt, and this time they stay like that because plot, I guess. Ethan gets one of the dumbest lines in the show so far. Since when do they have bad Power Rangers? I'll talk about that later on. Tommy manages to call the Stegozord away, which disables the White Ranger's Megazord. Alright then. The White Ranger retreats, and Devin sees the White Ranger demorphing. He tries to record it, but he hits his head and drops his camera. The camera's still recording, unbeknownst to him because he's knocked out from hitting his head once. Tommy tries to cheer up the Rangers and tells them to go have fun. Connor's playing soccer at school, and for some reason the autocorrect capitalized the word soccer. That's weird. That doesn't usually happen. Whatever. He's playing soccer, and he sees Trent sitting on a bench, and he looks really sick. Connor goes over and tries to talk to him, but Trent runs away. He thinks that's kind of weird, so he follows him. The really stupid plot from last episode with Cassidy and the kids actually gets a funny payoff here. Haley sees Cassidy come in covered in trash, and she's like, "Were you there in the attack?" And Cassidy mistakenly thinks she's talking about when the kids pelted garbage at her, and she's like, "Yeah, I was in the attack, I was right in the middle of it." And Haley's like, "You're lucky to be alive." And Cassie's like, "Someone should call those little brats' parents." And Haley's like, "What?" I love that. Devin meets up with Cassidy, not knowing his camera had been running. Connor is following Trent, and then suddenly he loses Trent, and the White Ranger shows up and attacks him. Mesagog is watching, and Zeltrax tells Mesagog that Angor has been upgraded, Master. Keep that in mind. Angor is sent out, and Tommy and Kira decide to go deal with him, while Ethan goes to help Connor. Ethan gets jumped by a bunch of Tyrannodrones, and is held back from Connor. Connor is able to summon a new power-up, but he's still barely able to fight back. Mesagog and Zeltrax show up to try and form an alliance with the White Ranger. The White Ranger refuses and leaves on his Dragozord. Mesagog and Zeltrax leave Connor because he might be able to help them find the White Ranger in the future. I think the writers just kind of were doing this on the fly and didn't know quite how to handle everything or something. The White Ranger forms his Megazord again. Mesagog sends Angor to fight him, but Angor gets defeated right away. Upgraded. Devin tells Cassidy that he got footage of the White Ranger, but he left it at home. Alright. That's the last we see of them here. And this is the last of the three-parter. This doesn't get a resolution. Maybe it gets a resolution in the next episode, but that's not part of this three-parter. Again, this is one of those weird Disney things where it's like, just multi-parters, they can't really figure out how to do them right. Tommy later sees Trent turn into the White Ranger. He tries to contact Haley, but then he gets frozen. Alright then. I was frozen today. This episode is so much better than the previous, though I think that these episodes could have been more condensed down to like maybe 2 episodes or maybe 3 episodes if the next part or like the next episode continues a lot of the stuff this one was setting up. The scene of the Dragozord creating deadly winds reminded me of scenes from the classic Toho movie Rodan, although in terms of Power Rangers, I guess it could be homaging Pexter. That's cool. The Dino Stegozord has one of the coolest looks this season. I really love its design, and I'm hoping that the retro Megazord toys aren't over with, because I would love to see this get a figure. That would be so cool. Also, I just like the idea of action figure sized Megazords in general. Ethan's Bad Rangers line is pretty stupid, especially after Legacy of Power. Like, have they just completely forgotten that now? Part of me wonders, why did they bother with Legacy of Power and having Tommy be a ranger and reference his backstory a couple of times if they were just gonna have everybody forget it most of the time and pretend that like no other season happened? I don't know, that's just a continuous weird thing in a lot of Power Rangers seasons. Like, only very recently have they kinda sorta dropped that, where they are allowed to, like, reference past seasons and pretend like that Power Rangers is just a normal thing. But even then, they still mess it up, and there's times when people are surprised when common things happen. It makes me wish Lothor could come in and be like, "What'd you expect? It wasn't gonna get any smaller." The whole thing with the White Ranger being able to control the Stegozord is weird. I don't really know what causes it. Like, yeah, he zaps it with his sword, but why does that work? Why can't he just do that to all the Zords? Why is it the Stegozord in particular? Why is that the one that he targets? And I was thinking that maybe in the Stegozord's debut episode, Trent should have had something to do with that plot. Maybe he's the one who finds the egg when it hatches. The Stegozord sees him, and they form some kind of bond. And that would provide some kind of clue as to why he can control it. As it is, though, it just happens because, I don't know. Also, him forming a bond with a Zord would imply that they're alive somehow, and that's something that Dino Thunder really hates for some reason. It's really strange. I don't know why in the world Power Rangers is so averse to the Zords being alive. Like, they did it in Wild Force. It worked out fine there. So, I really don't get why Dino Thunder so wanted to avoid the living Zords thing. It was such a big part in the Japanese version Aba Ranger that it creates a lot of problems when they're trying so hard to write around it. I really don't understand why they want to fight so hard against something that could work just fine. Devin's plot this episode surprisingly goes nowhere. Like I said, he records the White Ranger. At the end, he shows up to Cassidy and he's like, he's aware that he's recorded the White Ranger, but it's not even clear if he watched the entirety of what he shot. So, I don't even know why this plot is here. I love the payoff to Cassidy's plot from last episode, but again, I think it would have worked better if the first two episodes were combined and maybe condensed with this one. Like, that whole story with Cassidy and the kids takes up one episode, and its resolution is maybe not at the end of the first episode, but at the beginning of this episode. Like, have the first episode end with the Dragozord's attack, and then this episode begins, like, right at the beginning, nothing else, with Cassidy and Haley's conversation. So Angor is back, and that's another reason I think these two episodes really should have been condensed, since he's even more pointless this time around, serving as only a minor distraction. The Tyrannodrones make another appearance, and it's cool to see them. I like the Tyrannodrones, they're cool designs. But it makes me keep wondering where the Triptoids are. Seriously, what was the point of introducing them so early if they weren't going to be utilized for so long? And I know, like, someone out there is going to think, well, the Triptoids are Japanese, and they're all in Japanese footage, and the Tyrannodrones are all American footage. Yeah, I know, but they have both suits. They have the Triptoids, because there was American footage of them in Game On, and they have the Tyrannodrone suits, obviously, because they're American exclusive suits. So what's stopping them from mixing the two? I think that would be such a good idea, because from what I remember of Dino Thunder, eventually the Tyrannodrones are phased out in favor of just the Triptoids. And I think a more gradual shift would really help. Start off with the Tyrannodrones. Then when the Triptoids are introduced, pepper in some Triptoids. Maybe have the Triptoids provide or perform some kind of action that the Tyrannodrones are incapable of. I don't know, something. And then as the series goes along, slowly dwindle out the number of Tyrannodrones and replace them with Triptoids until eventually you have just Triptoids. And it doesn't feel like such a split, and it would help combine the footage, the American footage or New Zealand footage, whatever, and the Japanese footage. It would help it feel a bit more clean there. This episode is a huge step up from the previous, and hopefully the series keeps the quality up here from now on, although I know there's at least a few episodes coming up that I am not a big fan of, and they will not keep this or maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe they'll be better than I remember, but So anyway, that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. See ya.